Hello, it's Miss Southam again, here to read you Chapter 6 of Kaspar, Prince of Cats by Michael Morpurgo. Chapter 7, Stowaway. I should have taken more notice of Elizabeth's drawings, appreciate them more when she gave them to me, and afterwards, but the truth was I'd never in my life seen so much money. Sitting on my bed late that night, I kept counting it to make sure I wasn't dreaming it. Everyone on the corridor came in. They had to see it with their own eyes. Mary O'Connell held each note up to the light. I remembered to check it wasn't for a forgery. "Well, you never know, do you? Not with these rich folk," she said. I told Mary something I hadn't spoken about with the others, how I'd been thinking about it, and was beginning to feel very uncomfortable about taking the money. Mary was always good about right and wrong. She understood these things. "I didn't do it for the money, Mary," I told her. "I did it because it was Elizabeth up there." "I know that, Johnny," she said, "but that doesn't mean you don't deserve it, does it? This money is your ticket out. It's a God-given fortune, so it is. There's 2 years' wages here, for God's sake. You could go anywhere, do anything. Wouldn't any of us like to do that? You don't want to be having to shine shoes for the rest of your life, do you?" I lay awake most of the night, talking it through with Kaspar. He was a good listener. By morning, I felt that despite everything Mary had said, I might have to give the money back. Elizabeth's drawings were a thank you, and that was fine, but I couldn't help thinking that the money was in some way a kind of payoff, reward money for a bellboy. No, I didn't like being treated like a bellboy, and I didn't want a reward. I'd give the money back. But then, by morning, I'd almost changed my mind again. Maybe Mary had been right after all. I'd keep the money. Why shouldn't I? I was still lying there propped up on my pillows, with Kaspar curled up at the end of the bed, looking at Elizabeth's picture of the great ship, with the 4 funnels steaming through the oceans, gulls flying overhead, when the door suddenly flew open. Skullface stood there. "Oh, I thought so. I thought as much," she said. "First the girl was in here meowing like a cat, and that was odd enough. Then a day later she was up here again, wasn't she? But this time up on the roof, just outside your window. Strange that. Strange sort of coincidence, I thought. Do you know something, Johnny Trot? I don't believe in coincidences. And now you're quite the little hero, aren't you? Well, I weren't born yesterday. I'm no one's fool, Johnny Trot. I knew something fishy was going on, but now I can see it. It weren't fishy at all. It was catty more like." She came into the room, shutting the door behind her, and stood over me, a nasty vindictive grin on her face. Cat stepped onto the windowsill and was hissing and wailing at her furiously. "Well now," she went on, "I hear you've got in some money, Johnny Trot. Is that right?" I nodded. "Here's the deal then," she went on. "Either you pack your bags, hand in your uniform, and you're out on the streets within the hour, or you hand over the money. It's that simple. Hand over the money, and you can stay. I'll even let you keep that horrible cat up here, for a while anyway. There, I can't be more generous than that now, can I?" A few minutes later, she walked out of my room, tucking the envelope into her pocket. I was almost grateful to her. After all, she had made the decision for me. I sat down on my bed, where Kaspar soon joined me for some petting and reassurance. I was thinking things through. I was no poorer than I had been before it all happened, and now at least I had her word, for what it was worth, that Kaspar would be safe, for a while anyway. I still had my job. I felt a great sense of relief, but that was very soon overwhelmed by a wave of sadness. All too soon now Elizabeth would be leaving and sailing back to America. "I'm going to miss her. We're both going to miss her, Kaspar," I said aloud. "We won't miss the money. We never really had it, did we? But we will miss Elizabeth. What are we going to do without her?" I shouldn't have said anything. Kaspar must have understood enough of it, or maybe he just picked up on my sadness. I don't know. But either way, it became clear to me, as the days passed, that he understood all too well that Elizabeth would be going. After the very public Rooftop rescue, it had been in all the papers too. Elizabeth had the perfect excuse now to come up and see me often, even for us to be talking down at the lobby. So at least we were able to spend more and more time together during those final days. Time and time again I was tempted to tell her all about how Skullface had blackmailed me and taken her father's money. But I thought how angry it would make her, that it was too much to expect a young girl of that age to keep quiet about such a thing. So I didn't tell her anything about it, but I did tell her things I'd never told anybody else. About my life in the orphanage in Islington, about Harry the cockroach that I'd kept as a pet in the matchbox, about Mr. Wellington, who was supposed to have looked after us, but who must have hated children so much because he'd cane us so often for the slightest thing. He caned me for keeping Harry, then took him away and stamped on him right in front of my eyes, in front of all of us. That was what made me run away in the end. I'd often thought of it before, but never dared. I told her I'd wandered the streets of London for weeks, living rough before finding work as a bellboy at the Savoy, and of course she wanted to know all about Countess Kandinsky. I told her of my dream of finding my mother one day. I told her so many of my hopes and dreams, and all the while she listened wide-eyed. That last week together things changed between me and Lisbeth. From the moment we were sitting up on that roof holding hands and sharing our fear, she was no longer a little rich girl from America. I wasn't a 14-year-old orphan from London. We'd become proper friends, the best of friends. She no longer gabbled on all about the time about herself or about Kaspar, as she had when I'd first known her. She asked questions, and she wanted answers. "We haven't got much more time together," she said one morning, "so you have to tell me everything, because I want to remember everything about you and Kaspar for ever and ever." She did new drawings every day of her house in New York, of the Statue of Liberty, of her island home in Maine, of her dress as a pirate, of her with Kaspar, of me in my uniform, but mostly of Kaspar. Kaspar sleeping, Kaspar sitting, Kaspar hunting. But as the day for her to leave came ever closer, we became more silent together, more sad together. She would hug Kaspar close all the time she was with us in my room, and I could feel her wanting to stretch every minute into an hour, into a week.